And we're recording. Hey, these are gonna have pockets. There are pockets. I've got pockets. Oops, I just dropped it. Wait a second. I'm getting old. It hurts to bend over. Ooh, you saw a little bit, but I wasn't trying to show you just then, but here we go. Oh, it's so good. Hey friends, welcome to another episode of my wicked sweet world of color. I'm Ross and I'm coming to you from Owasso, Oklahoma, where I live with my amazing supportive husband Steve and our super sweet black lab Zola. This is a podcast primarily about knitting and knitwear design, as well as yarn dyeing. I'm the yarn dyer and owner of Twisted Ambitions Yarn. Without further ado, let's get into what I'm wearing. This is the Painting Triangles sweater by Stephen West, and I had the pleasure of test knitting this sweater, so that was really cool. This is my first test knit, and I'm looking forward to doing more test knits in the future because I really enjoyed the process of the whole thing. This is a DK weight sweater. It's knit top down in the round seamlessly using a US size 7 4mm needle. I used my own hand dyed yarn for this out of the colors. For the main color, I used lead. The three contrast colors from the top to the bottom. This is platinum, this is turquoise, and then this blue, this shade of blue is a one-of-a-kind color that I did not write the recipe down. And I'm regretting that because I really, really enjoy this shade of blue. So I test knit the size 3, which is the 40-inch chest circumference. This sweater has a folded collar and short row shaping and garter ridges down to this mosaic geometric slip stitch yoke design. You knit your desired length after you finish the stitch pattern. I think I knit about 5 to 6 rows after the yoke pattern, and then I split for my sleeves. Then I knit the body to my desired length, which I believe was 14 inches or so. I think that's right, 14 inches. And then you knit the hem, and I did a folded hem. I'll actually get up in a minute and show you the full sweater. But the overall main part of this sweater is a broken rib stitch pattern, which I love. I actually ended up doing this broken rib on a recent design on, I believe I showed that sweater in the last episode. I didn't modify this sweater at all because it was a test knit. I knit it exactly to pattern. So I knit the cuffs exactly to pattern with the 1x1 twisted rib and the I-cord bind off. I grafted the remaining 3 stitches of my I-cord to the beginning of the I-cord. And I'm pretty sure that Stephen West has a video. If it's not linked in the pattern, it's on his YouTube channel, and I'll put it below. That way you can see that tutorial for grafting I-cord. It's a very enjoyable and super easy knit. And if you've been wanting to try color work, but you've been putting it off, thinking that maybe color work is above your skill level, this pattern is so well written. Like all Stephen West patterns, I recommend it for your first colorwork sweater. Once you cast this sweater off, you'll want to cast on another one. So that's it for this sweater, and that's it for what I'm wearing. That brings me into my next section of whips, my works in progress. My first whip the Woolly Waffle Sweater by Stephen West. I have it right here in my Twisted Ambitions yarn bag. I love the texture of this sweater so much. When I first saw it, I knew I wanted to cast it on. I'm knitting this sweater in a new color. It's called Sweater Weather.
At least the weather's turned.
Oh, sweater weather.
Sweater weather.
Sweater weather.
Oh, God, I was...
Finally, sweater weather. Sweater weather.
This orange is called Sweater Weather, and I dyed it. It hasn't been released just yet. I don't know when it will be available in my shop, but I will update on Instagram and my stories or on my grid once it's available. So I'm knitting the size 3, which is a 38.5-inch chest circumference with an intended ease of 4 inches, I believe. And I'm knitting it on a US size 6 4mm needle, which is what the pattern called for. So it's a top-down raglan sweater that's knit seamlessly in the round, and I love this style of sweater that's top down because you can just put it on, try it on whenever you want, and make sure that it's to your desired length for the body and the sleeves, and just make sure that the overall fit is what you like. So that's one of my favorite ways to knit a sweater, is top down. So the stitch pattern, it's the waffle stitch pattern. I think it's his own innovation of the waffle stitch. It's a little bit different than your traditional waffle stitch, I think. But the stitch pattern is very rhythmic and it's very meditative. Super easy to remember. I think it's a 4-round repeat, which is easy to remember. You could easily set the project down, work on something else, and come back to it and right where you left off and just pick it up and start knitting again without any problems. So I knit the pattern as written with a couple modifications, including the bottom ribbing and cuffs. So I originally knit the bottom ribbing with an I-cord bind off, but it flared out. I just didn't like the way it looked, and I mentioned that in the last episode. And right after that episode, I ended up going back, ripping that I-cord bind off out and knitting twice the length of my ribbing and doing a folded hem. So that's just my preference on a sweater, the way that the hem is on the bottom, which is exactly what I did. And I think was already written in the pattern for this triangle sweater. So the hem is knit, it's folded. So this is what I like. And same with the collar. And I normally do that with the cuffs. So yeah, that's what I did with this waffle sweater. I did the turn hem, and it's just, I love it. I like the way that it lays around my waist. I think it doesn't cinch in too much, so it's not like squeezing you or like giving you a hug or anything like that. You just have to be careful whenever you're binding off your stitches that you're binding off loosely and not too tight, because then it will, if you do it too tight, it will cinch in. But you can see how stretchy it is. I didn't really have to like watch my knitting. It's pretty easy to keep it really loose when you're binding off. So it's on hold for now because I only have 1 cake of yarn left in this colorway. I believe I had 5 skeins total, so I'm on my 4th skein now. The 4 skeins knit the whole sweater besides the 2 sleeves. So I have 1 cake of yarn to knit 2 sleeves, which isn't gonna happen. I know it's not gonna happen. That's that sweater. That's my first whip. Moving on to my second whip. It's a color blocked cardigan that I designed after designing the pullover. So I designed the pullover first a couple years back, I think in around 2021, maybe the end of 2021. Fast forward about a year, I picked out yarn and cast on for a cardigan version with the same, design concept in mind. I'll show you the pullover first, and so you can just see where the idea came from. I have it right here. This is the pullover where this second whip, the cardigan version, was inspired. This is a pieced sweater that's seamed at the shoulders and the sides. And then the collar is then picked up and knit, which is also a folded collar. And then the sleeves are, the stitches are picked up around the armholes for the sleeves, and then the sleeves are knit in the round using an invisible join, knitting intarsia and with an invisible join. This sweater all started from an idea I had that I wanted a color blocked sweater that I could just knit using intarsia. I had never knit intarsia before, and I thought that it would be a good starting off point, like a way to get my feet wet, so to speak. I started sketching out styles of the sweaters from top down raglan to bottom up knit in the round, like a yoked sweater, and I ended up going with a pieced sweater that would be seamed. And after seeing all the sketches I realized that the one that stood out to me the most, and I think that looked best, was the sketch of the pieced sweater. So I sketched out the back and the front pieces, and using my gauge calculations that I have, I figured out the stitch counts that I needed for the chest circumference, the length of this sweater from beginning of cast on to the separation of sleeves, and I calculated the armhole circumference and how many stitches I needed to pick up. This is the first sweater I've ever actually designed. So going through this whole design process, if you will, I had to purchase a sweater design book, and it kind of got me into a good space of learning measurements of where I needed the fabric to hit my front, where I needed the fabric to hit my back, so it would be like for a crew neck. And so I went over how I wanted the sleeves to look, if I wanted them to be more drop shoulder or set in, and I went with like a middle ground between the two of a drop shoulder and set in sleeve. I'm not really sure what it's called, but essentially, you know, when the sweater is lying flat, it makes a shape of a T. So it's just a T-shaped sweater. The sleeves come straight out from the armhole, and I just thought it'd be a simple style for my first sweater, which it was. Super easy, very easy, enjoyable knit. If you've ever knit intarsia, depending on what kind of intarsia knitting that you've done, color block intarsia is so easy and way easier than picture knitting, which I haven't gotten into yet, and I want to. I love intarsia knitting in the style of this sweater, so I'd love to do some picture knitting, and that's kind of why I designed this sweater, was to dip my feet in and to get into intarsia, to eventually knit a stranded work intarsia sweater that I never knit, because it was a task, I will say that. I knit maybe 9 inches of the body, and it was, you know, half of the body was stranded color work, and like a quarter of that half of the body was intarsia, and I couldn't really wrap my head around how to do that. Like, looking back at it, I'm sure I could figure it out now, but whenever I first looked at the chart, I was so confused. I was like, and I even messaged the designer and asked, I was like, so this is stranded work and intarsia, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I knew it. I know that, but I couldn't figure it out. So I put it down. This was years ago, you know, like I said, like 2021. So it's still sitting wherever it's sitting. I don't know where it is, but it's sitting somewhere with half the body done. Okay, so once I knit the front and back pieces, I seamed the sides together using the mattress stitch, and then grafted the shoulder seams. And then I picked up for the sleeves, and I knit the sleeves. Actually, no, I picked up and knit the collar first, and then I picked up and knit the sleeves. All this to say, I had to learn another technique, which is very easy to do, but I couldn't find a tutorial on how to do it. And I didn't really even know where to look. I mean, I knew I need to get on YouTube and see if I could find some videos for it, but I couldn't find anything that worked that I was really looking for. So the technique that I was talking about is knitting intarsia in the round for the sleeves with an invisible join. So there's an invisible join right here, right there. And the way you do this is essentially doing a yarn over at the beginning and the end of, no, it's doing a yarn over at the beginning of every round, and then at the end of a round, you're knitting or you're purling the last stitch together with that yarn over. So you're basically just attaching one color to another without knitting full in a circle around the sleeve. So you're knitting you're knitting all the way to the other side, knitting that last stitch or purling that last stitch with the yarn over from that beginning of round. So it attaches that one color to the other color, because if you didn't do that, you would have a big old hole between your colors because you're not knitting in the round. You'd be knitting flat without connecting. So that's where the invisible join is knitting that last or purling that last stitch together with that yarn over. It took me forever to find a video tutorial. I went down in the YouTube hole until I finally found something. I don't even remember. I mean, I know now that you can search knitting intarsia in the round with using an invisible join. It's there, it's easy to find. But before, I didn't know what it was called, and so finding that was like near to impossible. It took me forever to find it, but I finally found it, and I was able to knit my sleeves. So I knit my sleeves. Whew. That was a lot of information for one sweater, right? So anyways, that was the sweater that inspired this next whip. Okay, you ready? Oh gosh. Here is the cardigan version of my intarsia knit color block sweater. Same design, just a cardigan version. I'm actually going to put it on real fast, so I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. And, oh goodness. So, I'm gonna stand up so you can see it better. So I've gotten this far on a sleeve. So this is it. That's the back piece. And these are the front side panels. Overall, I like the design aspect of this sweater. This version kind of reminds me of like a Lego type kid sweater, but I don't care. I'm gonna finish it, and then I'm thinking of making another sample in like a dark navy blue with the main color, and then a bunch of different color pops throughout that are in the same color family, like maybe like greens and blues and grays, just instead of this multicolored. I like it. I liked it more when I first started the sweater, and now it's like maybe it's like one of those projects that comes together at the end where you're just like so super happy that you finished it when you were thinking of like scrapping the whole idea. So I don't know, it's my own design, so I think that that's kind of cool. So since the last episode, I picked this up. Right after I finished that episode, like maybe a couple of days after, I picked this sweater up. It had been sitting for a long time. This sweater is knit in pieces. I knit the back piece, did the neck row shaping. I knit the front two side panels, and one of the coolest parts that I love about this cardigan are the pockets. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there are pockets. I've got pockets in this cardigan, okay? And I do love the finish on them. I did an I-cord bind off on the inside and an I-cord bind off on the outside of the pocket. The way I knit these pockets, I knit the bottom ribbing first. I turned the ribbing so it's double thick right there. I turned the ribbing, did my I-cord, started the intarsia work. As I knit my intarsia work on the outside, on the wrong side I picked up the amount of stitches I needed for as wide of a pocket I wanted, and I knit the front to where I thought I wanted the pocket to end, and those live stitches on the wrong side that were on my needle, I knit back and forth flat while attaching the first and last stitch of each row to the wrong side of this front intarsia, if that makes sense. So while I was knitting back and forth flat on the inside of the pocket, I was attaching these live stitches to the inside or the wrong side of this panel of intarsia. So I was knitting the pocket as I was knitting the front panel, and just did the I-cord work right here. It's kind of hard to explain, but I'm sure you understand. So this is what the wrong side looks like. And you can kind of see the hem, or the where I attached my live stitches to the back side of the intarsia panel, of the front panel. So I just attached these sides. Once I got to my desired depth of the pocket, I decided to do an I-cord on the flat piece of the inside of the pocket. So I did an I-cord, finished the I-cord on this side because I was knitting this way. I finished on a right side row with the I-cord, and then I did the I-cord of my intarsia, the front panel. Right when I got to right here, I attached this I-cord to this I-cord, finishing the I-cord along the outside of the pocket. And then got here and I knit the I-cord together with the back I-cord panel, and then finished the I-cord up, and then just knit flat for the rest of the front panel. And on the front panels, so since this cardigan is a V-neck style cardigan, once I got to my desired length and wanted to start decreasing for the V-neck, I started decreasing like right here. Decreased all the way up to the shoulder and did some shoulder shape rows right here. And that's where you see the seam for the front and the back piece. So that's how I did that. I thought the pockets were so cool. I still do think the pockets are really cool, and I can't wait to design another cardigan that's so much simpler than an intarsia blocked cardigan with pockets, knit as you knit the front panel. And it just seemed like it was just a lot of work, but it all came together because I don't even think I had envisioned pockets on this cardigan when I first started thinking about it. So once I finished the back piece, because that's what I knit first, I started on my panels or my front panels, and that's when I decided, hey, these are gonna have pockets. So I had to figure out what kind of pocket style I wanted, and right when I had my first idea, I just went with it because I didn't want to think too much about it. I just wanted to get it done and do it. So I did it. Like I was saying, I've had this cardigan set aside for a long time. I knit the back piece, I knit the two front panels with the pockets and seamed the shoulders and the sides together, and then it sat for about a year before I just picked it up recently, 3 weeks ago. It's been sitting in my UFO closet, my unfinished objects closet, if you will. Once I got it out of that unfinished objects closet, I put it back on my needles, but I had to figure out what kind of button band I wanted. I'd seen so many different kinds of button bands for cardigans, like double knit button bands, which I'm going to learn. I think I already know how to do it in my mind, but to actually do it I can't wait to explore down that rabbit hole of double knitting. So if you've ever double knit anything, leave a comment below and tell me some recommendations, maybe some YouTube video tutorials that you know, maybe some designers that you know that do double knit tutorials on YouTube that you can point in my direction. That would be very kind of you. I'd appreciate that. So I picked up for the button band all along the front, at the back, and the other side, and started knitting the shawl collar, or the button band and shawl collar. I knew I wanted a double, like a folded shawl collar and button band, so I want it to be double thick, like my hem was, or is, like the hem is turned. So I had to kind of figure out how to do that. I've never done that before. I got the basic concept down. I know I need to pick up stitches. I've picked up all my stitches along the button band and shawl collar to start forming the button band and shawl collar. So I was like, how do I do these short rows? Like, I remember doing them, but I'm one of those people that's just like, I'm not gonna go and research when I know I can figure it out myself. So I started doing short rows, and I ended up doing them backwards. So I ripped it all out and started over again, which it's okay. So I knit the shawl, the button band, came up here, and I have this wide collar. So between the shoulders on the back side, to raise up this fabric, I had to start doing short rows from here to 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 here, until I finally got all the way out here to where my V-neck stopped or started. So where my V-neck starts on this cardigan is like right around, where is it? Right here. So I had to do short rows all the way to here. Once I got here, I could actually start my button band. So I'm literally on the second row of my button band after doing all these short rows. And finally got to the middle of where I wanted my buttons, where the button band is, the middle where I wanted to place my buttons. Got over to the other side and did my buttonholes. So here are my buttonholes. Here's a buttonhole. You can see it right there. To get it to where I wanted it to be double thick, I had to do the buttonhole, knit twice as much as I knit before the buttonhole, so I could fold it over and do another buttonhole on the back side, so that my button would go through both sides, or both pieces of fabric, the front and the back, which is folded, and then knit, 4 or 5 more rows, and then I attached it all alongside the back of the button band and the shawl collar, making it double thick. That was a lot of talking. That was a lot of explaining how I did this, and it was a lot of knitting. So I was just happy that it turned out the way it turned out, and I didn't have to rip back my knitting for the second time because it was a lot of knitting. So I'm happy with the way it turned out. I should have knit the button band wider. I think that would have been a better look, but it is what it is. It's done. I'm not undoing it again because I would have to undo the whole thing to knit it wider, and I'm definitely not doing that ever. I'm never doing that. This is just the sample too. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna knit a second one. So yeah, after that was done, I picked up stitches and started on my sleeve. And the first time I picked up stitches starting on my sleeve, I did not go by my gauge, and I just guessed how many stitches I needed to pick up, and that was stupid because I picked up way too many stitches, like 20 stitches extra than I needed. I think I knit to around this blue color block, and realized it's way too baggy. It's way too big of a sleeve. So, and we're back. So my camera battery died, so I put it on the charger and got on Amazon and ordered a battery and charger. So this won't be a problem next episode, y'all. So I picked up stitches for the armhole, and after I picked up the wrong amount and knit about 6 inches, I ended up knowing that it ended up looking like it was way too baggy. So I ripped all that out, restarted by picking up fewer stitches, and I picked up a total of 88 stitches and knit about 10 to 12 inches of the sleeve. And then I can pick up stitches for this armhole and knit this sleeve, and then finally get this off my needles after it's been on my on the side for almost 2 years now. So I'm ready to get this out of my mind and on my shoulders. So that's it for that sweater. The original sample, or the original design for the pullover, I did an I-cord bind off. That's what separated the color blocking, and I used a 3-stitch I-cord bind off. And for this cardigan, I decided to make it chunkier, and I did a 4-stitch I-cord bind off, which I'm not in love with. I honestly like the 3-stitch I-cord bind off, but I was liking it when I first started the back piece, and I finished the whole back piece and then started the side panels and decided, well, I've already knit this much, so I might as well just finish it with the 4-stitch I-cord bind off. So that's what I'm doing. So my next sample for this cardigan I'll be going back to the 3-stitch I-cord bind off, just because I think it's a smoother finish. I like it more. It's not as chunky. So yeah, I think that's just gonna look so much better than the 4-stitch I-cord bind off. So all right, while during the intermission, I went and I got a cup of coffee because I just needed a cup of coffee. It felt like it's that time of the day. So, and I'm drinking it in my favorite mug because it's colorful and I love colors. So here it is. It's a 16-ounce mug that has my logo on it without the words, and I just think it was really cool, so I ended up having it made, and it's on my site if you are interested. And any merchandise from Twisted Ambitions Yarn, it's at twistedambitionsyarn.com, and you can search the market and you can find all different stuff from t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, tote bags, and other various accessories. So there's that. Moving on into my finished objects. So, finished objects, I only have one, but that's okay, right? And it's my blue jean baby sweater is what I'm going to be calling it, because it's knit out of a new colorway called Blue Jean Baby. So this is the sweater, and this is the sweater that I showed in the last episode. And where I left off with knitting this sweater, I was right on the collar, and well, let me back up. So I'll start by saying that I really wanted a loose fitted and a bit oversized comfortable sweater to just wear, that's unlike most of the sweaters I knit, which are more fitted and a lot of texture. I just wanted a sweater that was a nice semi-solid color that would pretty much go with anything like jeans and dress pants. After going over several different styles of sweaters in my head, I chose to go with a drop shoulder design. If you can see that right there. I really wanted to give this style of a sweater a go, so this is the very first drop shoulder sweater I've ever knit, and it's my own design. This sweater is knit using a new color called Blue Jean Baby in my Wicked DK base. The yarn is 100% superwash merino, and it's a 4-ply yarn, which is perfect for sweaters. I knit this sweater on a US size 7 4mm needle. Here is the sleeve, so you can just kind of get what that gauge looks like. It's a very nice drapey fabric too. This DK weight yarn is just, it's so good. And it doesn't really pill as much as my previous DK weight yarn base did, which is what I used. These are all old colors, and it was on my old DK base, which it has already started to pill. I do get a lot of wear out of this, but I don't think I've worn it enough for it to start really pilling, but it has. So this new DK weight base is just a lot better. The structure is, it just seems like the twist is a lot higher of a twist, so less pilling. So it's this sweater is knit in the round from the bottom up. Sorry, my dog is outside on her outside couch looking in the window because I left her outside because it's a nice day, and so I'm gonna go let her in real fast. So what I was saying, I knit this on a US 7 4.5mm needle, knit in the round from the bottom up to the separation for the sleeves. And just to give you an idea of how I exactly knit this sweater, I'm going to start off by explaining step by step what I did to achieve this look. So starting with the hem of the sweater, I knit 5 inches of 1x1 twisted rib, and then I turned the hem and attached the live stitches to the inside of the fabric. And if anyone is interested in seeing a step-by-step demonstration on how to turn a hem, please let me know down in the comments, and yeah, I might make a video, a little video demonstration of me turning a hem. So I do have a reel that I posted a little over a year ago of turning a cuff, which is the exact same thing that I do with a hem, but it's a lot easier to show the hem of a sweater versus turning a cuff. So same process of knitting, but a bigger circumference, so it's easier to show. So let me know down in the comments if you would like to see that. After turning the hem, I turned my work inside out. The reason why I turned my work inside out is because I wanted the outside of my sweater to be reverse stockinette stitch. I knit 14 inches of reverse stockinette, or 14 inches of regular stockinette inside out, right when I got to my desired length for the body. I didn't really have to separate for my sleeves, seeing as it's a drop shoulder style sweater. So what I did was I just cut my stitches in half, knowing that this was my front piece and then these stitches were my back piece. So I knit the front piece flat and then I knit the back piece flat. So I knit the front piece a total of 7 inches for my yoke depth while doing the neck shaping for a crew neck. And then I did the back piece a total of 9 inches while doing the short rows for the neck shaping for the crew neck. And I went with 2 inches of a difference between the front and the back piece, just because I kind of thought that I wanted this sweater to be a turtleneck, but I wasn't sure. But I did know that I wanted the collar to be a little bit higher up on my neck, because I was really thinking a cozy winter sweater that's oversized, a bit oversized, more loose fitted, like a sweatshirt, So I knit few or 1 inch less than I normally would, or I'm sorry, 1 inch more than I normally would for the front yoke piece. So 7 inches versus my normal 6 inches is what I normally do. And then once I finished the front and the back piece, I kept the shoulder stitches right here for the front and the back piece on needles. So there's 2 needles right here pointing in the same direction, and I turned it inside out and did a 3 needle bind off. And the reason why I turned it inside out and did a 3 needle bind off is because it left this seam. It's kind of like an I-cord bind off, to be honest. That's what it looks like. I haven't done a 3 needle bind off in so long. But yeah, it looks like a little I-cord, which I think would be cool on the outside of the sweater, like as a little style. But I chose not to do it for this sweater. So that was the 3 needle bind off, and this is what it looks like on the outside of the sweater. So if you pull it apart, you can kind of see the seam, but when you're wearing it, it doesn't really stretch apart on my shoulder. So that's how I did this, the shoulders. That's how I attached the front and the back piece for my shoulders. I then picked up stitches around the neck to knit the folded collar. In the last episode, I showed this sweater as a whip, and I mentioned that I may want to make this sweater into a turtleneck. I was still undecided, but that night I decided, yes, I do want this to be a turtleneck. And so I knit double the length of the ribbing of 1x1 rib, and I turned the collar. I tried it on, and the collar literally came up to here and like hugged up around my chin and around my neck, and I didn't like it. It was too much. It was too bulky. It was too long. So I ripped out the bind off and I ripped back my knitting like 3 inches. And this is now the collar, which I think is around 6 to 6.5 inches, 3¼ inch folded, and it hits me just right, I think, for a turtleneck, and at least the turtleneck style that I like to wear. And I'll put it on here in a minute so you can see. Sometimes designing is a trial and error process, and I do think most designers have to rip back their knitting a lot from time to time. It doesn't bother me at all ripping back my knitting, because I just know that I don't want to put in all that time into knitting a project that when I'm finished with it, I'm not really going to wear it much. So ripping back my knitting is totally fine. Like I completely understand that that's part of the process, especially when it comes to designing your own garments. So after finishing the collar, I had to determine how many stitches I needed to pick up for the sleeve. My gauge was 22 stitches and 32 rounds per 4 inches. I had 7 inches for the front piece and 9 inches for the back piece, totaling 16 inches for the sleeve circumference. I took my gauge of 22 stitches and multiplied that by 4 inches and got 88 stitches that I need to pick up around the armhole. So once I picked up my stitches, I first turned my work inside out because I wanted to have reverse stockinette all over the sweater. I wanted the sleeves to be reverse stockinette, everything reverse stockinette. I knit about 2 inches and discovered that the sleeve just started to roll, not inward, but outward. So it would roll up, and I didn't like that. I was like, why? No. It didn't roll up. It rolled down. So it rolled in, and I was like, I don't know why that's happening. So I went back, picked up my stitches a different way, and then turned it inside out again and tried again, and it didn't work. It was doing the same thing. So I was like, okay, we're just going to have regular stockinette sleeves because I don't want to keep doing this on this sweater. I just want to knit it and finish it. So I just knit regular stockinette sleeves, decreasing every 8 rounds. Well, once I picked up my stitches, I knit about 2 inches before I started decreasing, which gives me a little bit more room on my upper arm, which is what I like. And it's a little bit more of an ease. It's a little bit bigger, oversized than I normally go for like a fitted sleeve. So I decreased every 8 rounds, keeping the sleeve, I wouldn't say it's baggy. It's just like a sweatshirt, not a fitted sweater. So I continued decreasing all the way to the cuff, getting to a stitch count of, I think it was 60 stitches. So still a considerable amount of ease, if you will. So it's not very snug, but it sits there just like a sweatshirt would. And that's what I really like, that it's not like tight on my wrist and it moves around with, you know, as I move around, it moves around, and I like that. So the the cuff, I knit 6 inches and then turned the cuff. And I just think that's the perfect length for this sweater, the cuff. It pretty much matches the collar. I think the collar is maybe 1/4 of an inch longer. Actually, no, it's the same. It's the same size. So the collar is the same as the cuff. So there you go. I really like the fit of this sweater, and I plan on casting on another similar sweater soon and writing the pattern out, but well, that way I can share it, you know, with the world. But I'm thinking I want to go up a size or 2 in yarn weight. Like I was thinking of maybe an Aran weight yarn with a strand of Surrey alpaca held together with it to make a little bit of a chunkier, warm and soft sweater, but maybe a more fitted style this time. Now I have yarn to show you that I dyed specifically for this sweater that may or may not be on my needles soon, who knows. But so this is the yarn, and oops, I just dropped it. Wait a second. I'm getting old. It hurts to bend over. No. So this is the color. Oh, you saw a little bit, but I wasn't trying to show you just then, but here we go. It's like a really nice gold. Okay, let's do this again. That was cool. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. So this is an Aran weight base. This may be coming to my shop this winter because I've been wanting to get an Aran weight base yarn in my shop for so long. Same as worsted weight. I'm working on a worsted weight base, which I'll talk about more in future episodes. I'm thinking of a non-superwash right now. That's the only one that I've really found that I really like. But I have yet to start dyeing on it, so I'm not sure how it takes to dye. I've never dyed superwash or non-superwash yarn yet, so I'm eager to start doing that and just see how it works out. But Aran weight yarn, and this particular base is a merino cashmere nylon blend. It is, what is it? I want to say it's an 80-10-10. So 80 superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And it's a 3-ply Aran weight base yarn that's, I believe, 181 yards per 100 grams. And this is the Surrey alpaca that I dyed, the same exact colorway, only you can see that this base brought in more, like drank up more of the dye on certain areas. That's just what you get with a Surrey alpaca. Same with the mohair. You're gonna get that splotchiness, deeper color effect on certain areas of the skein. This is what I'm thinking for a drop shoulder, a little bit more fitted sweater. I love this color, and I wasn't sure if it would look good on me, but I designed a hat, the hip and slip hat that you can find on my website, hip and slip hat, and it's a DK weight yarn, and I dyed this golden color, which was a collection color from Born This Way collection. It was called I'm a Superstar, which is now reformulated, and it's now called Honey. So it's similar to this color, but this color is a little bit more gold with a more vibrant undertone of yellow. So it really, really shines, and it leans more towards the golden brown than more of the yellow. I am going to keep this color that I just dyed. I'm going to be keeping this color and introducing it to my shop sometime. I don't know when, but I do love this color and I'll be keeping it. So more yarn, a different color, and another option that I have to design that particular sweater is a DK weight yarn, which is my normal Wicked DK base, 100% superwash merino, 4-ply, 250 yards to 115 grams. And this is called Pear. This colorway is called Pear, which is right now available for the Hot Loops wall. So you can pre-order that, or not pre-order it. It's a dyed to order right now. If they've run out of stock for the wall, you can go on and purchase through the dyed to order listing on their site. So this paired with this pair, Surrey alpaca, to make another or the same style drop shoulder sweater is what I was thinking, but I haven't nailed down exactly what I'm going to do. I'm still working on it. But I know that I want to cast something on. I've got the itchy cast on fingers, if that's a thing. Cast on itis, I don't know. But so that's it for finished objects. I talked a little bit about yarn for that design, but moving on to project plans. So have you heard of HiberKnitAlong? Because it's here. HiberKnitAlong is a knit-along that Stephen West puts together annually, which I believe it's the 4th year now. Yeah, I think it's the 4th year. He designs a shawl and always has these amazing kits from indie dyers that he normally collaborates with, sometimes newer dyers too, and puts together these kits that include stitch markers, stickers, scissors, and other fun knitting stuff. Usually there's a tote bag or some sort of small bag. So these kits are well put together and are ready for pre-order weeks before cast on date, so you'll have plenty of time to get your yarn if that's what you're wanting to do, or use any yarn from other dyers you like, or yarn from your stash. This year's HiberKnitAlong cast on date is December 26th, and I cannot wait to cast this project on my needles. I already purchased the pattern, and I looked over it last night, and I just can't wait. It's so much fun. So this year's shawl design is called the Glittering Snowscape Shawl. The shawl features 5 colors from light to dark in fingering weight yarn. It's knit using a US size 4 3.5 millimeter needle from the top center to right before the border, and then the border is knit sideways. So it looks to be pretty large, like all of Westknit's shawls, which is perfectly fine with me. I like a big shawl, and the texture of the shawl is outstanding. I love the lace detail. It's very intricate yet simple. I love a lace detail that's throughout the entire shawl. I've made the fan stitch. I've made chevron shenanigans, which has chevron and lace detail yarn overs throughout the whole shawl, bubbles and brioche. So I really like the lacy shawls. It does take a little bit of headspace. It's not stockinette in the round or anything like that, but it's so simple reading off his patterns and very easy to follow. So any beginner can do this shawl. So I just want to make that clear. You don't have to be an amazing knitter, you know, and know how to do brioche or whatever, especially for this shawl. There's not any brioche in this shawl. So yeah, super excited about that shawl and I'm ready to cast on already, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to do the knit along. So it's December 26th, cast on. Make sure you have your yarn and the pattern ready to go and get that kit if you're wanting to get a kit from StephenandPenelope.com, I believe. So yeah. I think it's really cool this year how he did like a fade from light to dark. I love fading yarns to just see the fabric that you get. Another thing that I love is marling yarns, but fading yarns is just as easy, if not easier, because you're really just working with one color at a time, except for whenever you're starting to do the fade. I think just looking at the shawl, you do like 2 rows of one color, then introduce the new color for 2 rows, and then go back to the previous color for 2 rows, and then switching every 2 rows or something like that. Maybe carrying up your yarn up the sides of the shawl, which Stephen has a video tutorial on YouTube for that. I'm pretty sure he'll link it in the pattern. If I don't believe I didn't really look over the pattern that much to see if there was a video link for that, but I love that idea of fading from light to dark. I think that's gonna show off the yarn, and it's just gonna look so good hanging on your neck from the lightest part right here and then down to the darkest part lower. It's gonna look so good. So I think this shawl should be on your list of things to cast on for sure, because it's on mine. It's going to be on my needles December 26th. So for this year's HiberKnitAlong, or Hiber season, actually, for this year's Hiber knitting season, Stephen West also put out 5 other patterns that are just so cozy looking and colorful, starting with the Treasure Trove sweater, which features a geometric yoke design in the dip stitch pattern. And there's a video tutorial that he just put out on YouTube the other day. He also has the Treasure Trove hat, cowl, and mittens. So lots of fun dip stitch patterns and a new technique to me, a new stitch pattern to me. So I'm excited to cast those on. I don't know if I'll be knitting the mittens. I don't really need mittens. I don't use them yet. So maybe in the future I might. I do like the pattern. I think it looks amazing. All the patterns look amazing, and most likely all really fun to knit. So lastly, there's a new blanket design called the Hvammsvík. I sound so weird. The blanket design is called the Hvammsvík blanket. I'm sure I butchered that. It's an Icelandic word. And the blanket, it's a geometric design where you knit each section horizontally with one color at a time as you modularly knitting the sections together, which is similar to it's exactly like the Hvammsvík Unite shawl, which is knit modularly. You knit this is the first piece you knit is this long triangle. So you have the first striped section. This is the second section that you're just picking up stitches, and you're knitting back and forth with increases on this side of this section. Once you finish section 2, you're on section 3, which you start in this corner with like one stitch. You're knitting back and forth, knitting your last stitch with one of the selvage stitches from the previous section, Come back over here, knitting the last stitch with a selvage stitch of the first section. So you're just picking up and knitting these sections together, which is called modular knitting. He has a workshop. Stephen West has a workshop on his website, westknits.com, that you can purchase. I believe it's like 50 euros or something like that. I purchased it because I wanted to learn more about modular knitting. There's also Tina Say teaches modular knitting in Knit Stars season 6, I believe. So it will be such a fun knit to use up stash yarn or, you know, full skeins of yarn that you've had lying around. It looks perfect for semi-solid colors, but I'm sure that variegated and speckled colors would be just as cool. So yeah, and there's no seaming. That's the best part of this blanket. There's no seaming, although it looks like there may be, but there's not. Super cool. All these patterns should be on your radar for this winter. Perfect winter knitting. So my knitting plans for this winter is obviously to participate in the HiberKnitAlong and cast on glittering snowscape shawl on December 26th. But what I'm going to cast on before then to keep my hands occupied, you ask? Well, the Treasure Trove sweater and hat comes to mind. They're looking like a strong possibility. I'm also looking at a few other patterns that I have in mind, like the Hvammsvík cardigan by Tanya Hodney. I think that's her name. I think that's how you pronounce it. I may be pronouncing it wrong. But her Instagram handle is @strickacafe, and I'll put it up here. So this cardigan, it's a basket weave cardigan that's knit in pieces from the bottom up to the sleeve separations, and then the front panels are knit flat, and then the back is knit flat, and then reading the pattern, you do a 3-needle bind off for the shoulder seams. So you do the 3-needle bind off, and then you pick up stitches around the front panels and around the back piece for the button band and collar. Then you pick up stitches around the armholes and knit the sleeves down to the cuffs. Seeing the original sample for this cardigan, I can tell that I want to make a few modifications, starting with the length of the cardigan, making it a little bit longer. I think the sample version of the cardigan is a little bit cropped, so a little bit more of length to the body is what I want to do. So I'll be knitting a few more basket weave rows, I guess, to get my desired length for the body. And I'll probably lengthen I think the length of the ribbing is already like 5 inches. I don't know, I don't need that much ribbing. I think it's just too much for my preference, so I'm going with like maybe 2.5 to 3.5 inches of ribbing, and 3.5 inches of ribbing is maybe pushing it too. So, but I'm also thinking of doing a double knit shawl, a button band shawl collar, instead of just a regular pick up your stitches and knit ribbing or all the way around. So I'm thinking a double knit button band and short row shaping for a folded shawl collar. I think that would make more for a more casual dress look, which is what I like at a cardigan and a sweater in general. I don't have any yarn in mind, but the pattern calls for a DK weight yarn, and I think it's held with a strand of mohair or Surrey alpaca. So I would use my Wicked DK base with a strand of Surrey alpaca. And maybe I'm thinking the color to be like a charcoal gray or some kind of cool medium gray toned yarn. I think that would be really nice for a cardigan, for this particular cardigan. I'm also looking at the Porter cardigan by Megan Babin of Hudson and West Co. It's a unisex cable cardigan knit using DK weight yarn, and the main body of the cardigan is knit with a US size 7 4.5 millimeter needle, and it's an all over cabled cardigan. So I think that the US size 7 is just tight enough to where there's not going to be a bunch of holes or airiness in the cardigan. Now I haven't done a ton of cable knitting, and I definitely haven't done any cable knitting recently. But I do know that I am a confident knitter, and I can attack this pattern and have a super cool cabled cardigan that I can show off. So I'm really looking forward to knitting the cardigan, and if it's not the project I cast on before anything else, I know I will eventually, because I just want a cabled cardigan in my life. I also love the design, and I think that it would be an amazing knit in one of my new semi-solid colors. I've been dyeing a lot of new semi-solids, and I've teased a photo on my Instagram and stories showing a lot of new colors. Most likely they'll come out next year. Now I'm leaning towards earth tones or neutrals for this project, possibly a golden brown or a deep burnt orange. I don't know yet. My color choice could always change. So that's what I have for my knitting plans this winter, other than my own designs that I'm currently working on. And I will show you more progress on those designs when I can. So I think that about wraps this episode up. Please let me know in the comments if you liked this video and if you have any recommendations on the patterns that I am thinking about casting on this winter. And if you want to cast on some of those projects with me, let me know in the comments if you're going to be participating in the HiberKnitAlong. I cannot wait to cast on that amazing lace shawl. And I've got to dye some yarn for it too. Guys, thanks for joining me today. I really do appreciate you being here and watching me talk about yarn and knitting and designing. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video and subscribe to my channel so you can get notifications for when I post again. I appreciate y'all so much. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you in the next episode.